That's cool.
And now we're recording here.
All right.
Are we recording there?
So we're recording in both locations. So slap us.
And Josh forgot the slap chop yet again.
Maybe I'm doing it on purpose, Logan.
2 geeks,
1 mic. Thomas Estrada.
2 geeks,
1 mic.
What is this half-second delay, dude?
Dude, that's where it's at.
That's the little anticipation.
See, he knows. He's good. He's magically certified.
Okay, 2 geeks,
1 mic.
Thomas Estrada.
Oh, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, magical creatures from all realms.
All realms.
You know
Excuse me, sorry.
why we're here today.
Turn my hat back.
You most likely recognize this gentleman between us. He's a very fine gentleman by the name of Thomas Estrada.
Handsome man.
Oh,
Right?
too.
So, introduce yourself. Like, what have you got? What's your resume? Run down your resume.
Well, yeah, my name's Thomas Estrada. I'm a animator, character animator. I started out at DreamWorks in 1997, 20 years ago.
Throwing it
this
back.
year,
Throwing it back.
on The Prince of Egypt. From there, I went on to The Hotel Dorado, was the next film at DreamWorks. At that point,
Which was a fantastic movie.
Thanks.
Just
Yeah.
like,
It was awesome.
take a moment right there and give props to
Hotel Dorado.
Miguel and Tulio, the
Tulio Miguel.
all-powerful gods. Was that one of yours?
You know, I don't know if I worked on that scene, so
Oh,
no, I don't think
dang
so.
it.
I know.
Because that would be like really great to have the guy who drew that.
Wasn't Brendan...
It was Kenneth Branagh and Kevin Kline were the voices.
Voices,
of those two.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really great. Sorry.
no,
Little segue there.
Totally. Yeah. Then at
Tangents.
that point, I went to
We
Disney.
never do that on this show.
No. Disney feature animation. I got to work on Emperor's New Groove, then Atlantis, Treasure Planet. Their last hand-drawn film at that time was called Home on the Range. Was a cow movie.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, you and most people did not see that.
I will say this.
Cows, right?
It was with Talking Cows, Roseanne Barr, I think Emma Thompson was in it, I think
I want to say I remember...
Cuba Gooding Jr.
What? Yeah.
There was a few people.
Damn!
Yeah. At that point, I went back to DreamWorks to work on their last hand animated film, which was, you guys remember, DreamWorks' last hand animated
I didn't know
film.
DreamWorks ever did hand animated.
Well, yeah,
films. That
Prince of Egypt, Prince of Egypt, El Dorado, Sinbad were all, well, actually, I just said it. Sinbad was their
Yeah!
last hand-drawn
I'd
film.
say that was a Jedi mind trick.
Yes. So
You did Hercules too, right?
No.
no.
That was just before I got in. That came out right before The Prince of Egypt, and so
Okay,
I actually
gotcha.
applied at Disney at that point, but they had just finished Hercules, and so they weren't
Okay.
really hiring me.
Alright, yeah.
So I'm back at DreamWorks. I got to work on Sinbad, and then at that point I retrained on the computer animation and got on to Shark Tale, and then Over the Hedge.
And, I mean, my kids love Shark Tank.
Dude, Shark Tale was
Really?
awesome.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why.
My kids hate Shark Tale. They still give me a hard time that I even worked on that.
We had
Jack Black.
Yeah.
Jack Black, Will Smith.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Angelina Jolie. Yes.
and Jolie.
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 Angelina
Angelina Jolie.
Yes. Why did I want to say
I don't know.
Joliet?
Joliet. Maybe you're maybe really embracing your deep French roots.
Possibly.
So then at that point I got into video games. I left DreamWorks and I went to a game studio. We were like a contract studio, so we were picking up work from a lot of different developers. So I got to work on games like God of War 2, Gears of War 2.
Great old Gears.
Gears
Really?
of War, yeah.
You were... Oh.
Got to work on
I knew you'd like that one.
Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, the first Uncharted game. Worked on some Spyro the Dragon, if you remember the puppet.
Yes.
Oh,
Did a
yeah.
couple
Love
of those. Did,
I love me some Spyro, dude.
I do.
Saints Row 2 I worked on.
Nice.
When the first... what was the first Spyro game? The something Landers? What is it?
Oh, it was Skylanders.
Skylanders.
Came out
That was
later.
not Spyro. Was
No,
Spyro was
they revived
pre-Skylanders.
Spyro to he was part of Skylanders, but yeah, he had quite a few games before that.
They
Yeah.
brought him into the fold.
Exactly.
But the Skylanders that had the portal.
Yes.
Yeah, I had that. I had a bunch of the little
The
characters.
figures.
Yeah.
So that's what I did when I came to Utah. Was not Skylanders. We did the Disney version, which was Disney Infinity.
right.
Which we had the
Yeah.
portal and the figures and the whole thing.
Which that Primo game.
It's a fun game. Worked on that for about 6 years. We were on that from the beginning right to the very end.
We spent many a morning, like 6 in the morning, like lined up at Target and Toys R Us, getting the exclusives. There was a lot of swearing involved with that because I was like, "Listen here, you son of a! Why would you make Boba Fett only available in Toys R Us, jerk?" But
really,
did you get the Black Suit Spider-Man?
I did not.
I don't even have those.
So yeah, that was he worked on the characters for that, right? You helped design the characters?
No. I did character animation again. So we did all the motion, the movement. So I worked on all the running, jumping, attacks. I was the lead animator for all the cutscenes, so all the little movies at the beginning and
I will say this, my favorite character in Disney Infinity 1.0 was Iron Man. I loved Iron Man because he had like the best attacks. He
came in 2.
Was he 2?
Yeah, because that was the Marvel edition. Was a 2.0.
I thought.
Yeah.
Get your Infinity.
I'm gonna get my Infinity straight.
Infinity 1 had the mostly Disney and Pixar stuff. So it had the Incredibles playset, the Monsters University. It had the Toy Story, and then there was the Lone Ranger that was thrown in there.
Oh,
which is funny. A funny story with that. You know, we were developing the game.
Disney flop, Lone Ranger.
Well, here's what it made it even worse is so we're putting a ton of time and effort to make this Lone Ranger playset because. You know, they just assumed it was going to be a huge hit. It was Johnny Depp. It's it's who was it? Bruckheimer was
Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah. He was directing it, so they were like, "This thing's going to be huge." So
this
we're pouring
going to be
everything.
Huge.
It's going to be Pirates version 2. I'm telling you,
it's going to be huge.
So we're pouring everything into the Lone Ranger playset, and about that same time, they said, "Oh, by the way, can you guys squeeze in these?" Anna and Elsa thing, like we're not really sure, but they didn't even make a playset for it. We didn't even know what it was. We're like, who's Anna? Well, it's this. I don't know. It's this film.
It's a Norwegian thing.
If you can find a place to put them in there, Anna and Elsa, whatever, and,
princesses,
and so that's what we were doing. And so because we had no idea,
that's so awesome.
They backed the wrong horse.
Who knew?
And you know, Elsa was actually quite a good player in that.
Yeah, she had some great attacks.
She was like,
and so awesome. Who knew? I mean, Frozen went on to be the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Which like how do you here's my fun part about that is, you know, getting in on the ground floor of something like that and then going, yeah, okay, it's, you know, it's a cute little project. Here you go. Here's your princess.
Throw something in there, yeah.
And then like a month later, they're like, by the way,
yes. All of a sudden, it was just like
that's just crazy.
Yeah,
awesome.
And there was a lot of those things. I mean, you know, we were making a game, you know, probably a good year or so before a film may come out. So there's no way of projecting that stuff, and so they're just throwing stuff in there, just hoping they're trying to project what's going to be the big hit and.
But they give you kind of the gist of the character, right?
Not always.
They didn't say that Elsa had, you know, frost powers.
I'm sure. Well, that was one where they did tell us she has this frost power.
Imagine Iceman, but with boobs.
But the other one,
and blonde hair,
But there were other times when we didn't get all the information, and you know, an example of that was like with Maleficent. You know, she was in the game,
right?
And so
she was a pretty badass character too.
But at the time when we were first developing that character for Infinity, you know, we kept asking the studio for information about Maleficent, and they were like, well, you know, it's really under wraps, and we can't say a lot. And we're like, yeah, but we're making the character for this game, and
we're helping you.
Left hand, talk to right hand.
Help me. Help you!
Yes. So there was a lot of that went on. You know, all we had the information, well, it's Maleficent, so we're looking at the old Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, yeah.
Maleficent.
Which
evil.
About her on
1964.
She was scary.
And she's got the staff, and so we're doing all these cool attacks with the staff and everything. Well, when we got closer to development with the film, with the Angelina version of Maleficent, they came back and they looked at all these attacks that we did with the staff, and they're like, she doesn't really use her staff
you guys
to
really
attack stuff in the film.
You guys really kind of missed it.
It's more magic that she's using, and we're like, well, thanks for letting us know.
So all those man hours that you guys spent on it,
out the window.
Don't worry about it.
So we went back and had to reanimate a bunch of stuff with it without the staff.
Back to the drawing board, lads.
Yeah, and so you get a lot of that, and it's understandable. You know, they want to protect their property and what they're doing, and so they're not always going to share everything with us. But it would come in handy at times.
It would be nice.
Yeah, you know, and another one with that was, you know, we did the play set for the Force Awakens with the Star Wars stuff.
Hello.
Tightly under wraps.
Oh,
like they would not
they're
share.
saying it's like one of the most heavily enforced NDAs that has ever been.
Even the concept art and the stuff that we were getting from the film, if you wanted to see any of that stuff, you had to go literally into a locked down private room that had a camera very similar to this one, pointing at the computer.
Look at the lightsaber.
And you could look at it and see what the characters look like, and if you wanted, you couldn't take any phones or anything in there with you. If you wanted to take any of that reference,
like
you had to literally just do sketches.
Top secret stuff.
That's like heavy top secret.
That's like working in a skiff.
Yeah.
Like in the Air Force, you go into a skiff. There's no electronics allowed.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You got to check in. You got to check
you
out.
basically are walking into a secured vault.
A steel trap.
It was a vault. And you know, we're working on these characters. So once they finally got the look of them in the game, we could actually see who they were.
Right.
But we had no idea what their names were. They were all code names. So when we were working on Rey,
This
and
is purple
Kylo
Ren.
Ren. No, it was Lola and Grim. Those were the code names, and that's all we knew because they were going to keep that under wraps.
When the first trailer dropped for it, nobody knew any of the characters' names. And so they were guessing that, you know, Rey was one of the Solo twins.
No idea.
Yeah, and plus, especially with J.J. Abrams came out and was like, nothing you have seen up until this point is official Star Wars storyline. Yeah. And I was like, that was very upsetting for a lot of people because a lot of people have a lot invested in what's now referred to as the Star Wars Legends.
What made it more upsetting for some of the people, we had one of our lead story artists, Mr. Adrian Ropp, who's an incredible guy. He was writing the storyline for the Disney Infinity playset.
Right.
He actually got to go to the LucasArts and he got to actually read the script. This guy loves Star Wars, and it was a drag for him to actually have to have the movie spoiled. Then he would come back, and he's writing the script, but none of us are allowed to see the stuff he's writing, and he can't talk about any of it. And so he would come around, and he would just be like, yeah, I know everything that happens, and I can't tell any of you guys. And
This dude would not be able to do
There's
this.
no way. Do not tell me.
I would go
insane.
He didn't say a word. I mean, he didn't talk about it. In fact, even as we started working on the cinematics and the storyline for the playset, stuff was starting to get revealed.
Yeah.
And we would have to do a disclaimer in the meetings. All right, everyone, we're going over storyboards for the Force Awakens. At that time, it was just the Episode 7 they were called.
Man.
We're going over storyboards. We're going to be discussing story stuff. And there were people that would get up and walk out of the room because they didn't want to.
They didn't want to.
They didn't want to know. Yeah.
That is so awesome.
So yeah, there was a lot of that stuff.
That's so cool. Like, because they do the same thing in like classified briefings in the Air Force. Leave your phones outside. This is a classified briefing. If you do not have a need to know, please excuse yourself. Do not come inside.
It was
like,
crazy.
That's so crazy how there's like
so
such a parallel.
much of that, and there's at the end of the playset, the Infinity playset for the Force Awakens, there's a cinematic, a cutscene where Lola is fighting Grimm, and I got to animate that whole scene, which was really cool. But I had no idea who any of these people were. The only thing that I got from Adrian for our story synopsis for the animation was she's never held the lightsaber before, and so she's got to be kind of rudimentary about it. And he's just really aggressive. He doesn't quite know how to handle it either. It's like he's not as graceful as a Jedi would be. Right. And so basically it was that. Like, that's all they told me. And so I'm animating this whole scene of these two fighting in the snow, and the camera's got this great rotating camera, and so I'm like choreographing this whole thing. Well, with animators, oftentimes you have to film reference of yourself to get what it looks like to do cool stuff. Right. Well, I'm left-handed, and so a lot of the stuff that attacks I was doing with Rey was in her left hand. I'm not really left-handed. Hi, I'm not left-handed. But I'm animating this whole thing, and we start showing this stuff for approvals to LucasArts, and the first note that we got back was like, we really dig what you guys are doing with this fight scene. It's really cool, but She's not left-handed.
There's a butt in there.
She is not left-handed.
She is not really left-handed. Yes. And so I had to reanimate a portion of the fight scene where they said, just have her do something where she's putting it back into her right hand. So I have early cuts of it in her left hand, and then I have the stuff that I had to redo. And
so question then, and I might be delving in a little deeper in the geek pool than normal here, but they talk a lot about like the different Jedi fighting styles and the 7 forms of lightsaber combat.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Didn't know nothing like that?
No. Well, and it was because they had explained to me that they were both fairly new,
rough
and raw with their fighting styles, and so they didn't get into it too deep with that kind of stuff. So it made it easier for me. 'Cause if I had to pay attention to all those things.
And now I'm gonna look, because I'd be willing to bet that if I went on YouTube, I'd be able to find a video of someone analyzing
I'm
that.
sure there probably
that is a
she would
really
never attack with that
use of Makashi that Kylo Ren is pulling out there. But
I was making it all
straight from the horse's mouth. I'm not calling you a horse.
That's actually pretty cool.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a great sequence to work on, and to be able to work with Adrian, who had written the storyline in for all that, and to me that was one of the highlights of that game. It was to animate that final scene.
So now, did the playset come out after the movie, or did it come out before?
I think they released a couple of action figures prior to the movie.
Right.
Okay.
But then the storyline, I believe, was came out right with the film or right after the film. Because if you played the playset, you would get a pretty good gist of the film.
What's going to go
They
on.
weren't going to allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did they bring you guys in for any private screenings or anything like that?
For that one, I don't think we got one for that one. Pixar would often do screenings for us, which was really cool. You know, we got to see, I think the Toy Story stuff and the cars, and they would often do really cool.
Right.
They were really extremely generous with us. Pixar was. They were awesome.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm just like in awe right now, guys. Sorry.
It was cool. I mean, it was an unusual project with Infinity, and one that I don't know if we'll ever see again, where you had these properties of Disney, classic Disney, and Pixar, and then you had Marvel in there, and then LucasArts in there, and the Star Wars stuff.
It's a huge,
and just to try to get
and it's only going to become bigger
if they pick up Fox.
Did you hear about that?
I have heard about that. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens, because Fox effectively killed the X-Men franchise with Logan.
Yeah, but is anyone really ever dead?
But exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
so like,
did you see there is a post-credit scene?
Yes, I saw.
Yes.
Of it's not the one where Deadpool comes up and dumps like all the juice on him.
Not like this.
No, you actually see his 3 claws shoot out from the rocks.
Because nobody's ever really. I mean, didn't DC
die.
Comics like kill Superman? Like they've
killed
the comic universe. They've all died at one point.
It's almost a rite of passage. It's like, oh, you're a new superhero, huh? Come back to me after you've died a couple times.
Yes.
But with Wolverine, though, I mean, he's one that can go across both planes.
Yeah.
Yes.
X-Men, Avengers, because he's fought with and against everybody.
I really want to see Wolverine come in and scrap with Thanos.
How cool!
I want to see that.
Oh yeah, I want to see. I want to see him fight the Hulk.
Well, yeah.
Considering that was his first introduction into the comic books.
We did get some Thor v Hulk, but that was light in the first Avengers film.
Well, Thor Ragnarok is supposed to be more like Planet.
And I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, I won't tell you about it then, mister.
I'm not doing this. I'm not getting any spoilers.
But, I mean, why would Disney pull the plug on Disney Infinity if it's just going to become bigger and bigger and bigger?
Well, along with the growth of the game is production costs, and that entails a lot of risk and a lot of overhead, and so they had Disney has a history of either wanting to develop their own games with their own studios, which they did with Infinity, and then there's the other side where they it's cheaper, it's less risk. To just license the characters out to other developers, which is what they're doing now. You know, so you have games like there's a Spider-Man game that Insomniac is making. Cool. Insomniac's an incredible studio, and so they're handling that stuff. And then they have EA, I think, doing some Star Wars stuff.
Star Wars,
and so they've kind of gone back to that, which they had done in the past. They kind of go back and forth every few years on. What's the better business model to develop your own game and to make all that money, but then at that same time, it's a lot of overhead, it's a lot of risk, it's a lot of cost. And then the other side is, we can just license out the characters and have development.
Send you back some.
So they're taking a page out of LucasArts' book, because that's what they ended up doing.
Well, I think it's a pretty standard model for when you're developing.
With Force Unleashed, both.
Oh, right.
Both of the Force Unleashed games.
They were done by BioWare?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's difficult for an IP owner to, it's one thing to say we just want to make a game. There's a lot involved with it. And so sometimes it's like, well, this would be easier if we got an experienced, established studio like BioWare to just make it for us.
And then I know Obsidian did Knights of the Old Republic, which Knights of the Old Republic 2, fantastic game. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, that was
wonderful.
What was the Emperor's name? Voikrilian?
No, that is Old Republic.
Oh, that's Old Republic.
That's the MMORPG.
Okay.
So it was basically that they felt it was that the toys to life kind of genre was maybe going to decline, and so they felt. We're just going to pull the plug now and just kind of get out of it.
Well, I mean, Skylanders did the same thing. I mean,
not too long after.
You came out with Skylanders, everybody was like, gotta get the new Skylanders.
Huge,
oh my gosh.
And at some point it starts to peak.
No, it wasn't awesome. That pissed me off.
And then Lego Dimensions just canceled recently, so that was...
Yeah, Lego Dimensions was really fun too.
It was doing really well. But, it's one of those things. It's a... ultimately it's a business.
Right.
What are we going to make the most money with the less?
Well, and it's not like they uninvented those games. I mean, they're still fun games. You can still
play Infinity.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, there's not the online stuff and the content there, but
you guys just, it's okay.
There just won't be any expansion on what's
no more new stuff.
There.
And it was a drag. I mean, it was a as an animator, to be able to work on such a wide variety of characters and animation styles.
Right.
To work on Iron Man, and then you're doing some Toy Story stuff, and then you're doing some classic Disney.
Well,
I mean, just to get that is unheard of. And so
I never played Infinity. The kids have at your house. They love playing Infinity at your house. But I never played it, so the characters could go into the different universes or areas of...
They started making it so they had the play sets that were more specific to that property, like the Toy Story play set and then the Incredibles play set. And then the one main hub was the toy box, and that was the place where all the characters could interact with each other. And then towards the end, they started breaking that out a little bit more. Right. I think Rocket Raccoon was able to go into other Marvel play sets and vice versa. And so they were just starting to scratch.
He was awesome too, man. When you get Rocket Raccoon all powered up and he's got his two guns, he's just like,
yeah. So yeah, it was a fun game. But I worked on it for 6 years, and it was a great time. The great team and
pretty much from start to finish. Then.
Yeah, I was on it right from the very beginning.
Well, that's got to make you feel good.
It was cool, and right to the very end. I mean, I was there the day when they announced that we were done, and yeah, it was a drag. Because what was really a drag is we were doing a whole intro for the 4.0, I guess is what it was. Each game had these special cool little intros, and the one for that one was going to be this whole Jiminy Cricket thing, and so we had to. Like the opening of Pinocchio,
Jiminy's
the camera was
coming
coming in.
Dude, Jiminy's awesome.
We just got the Jiminy model, and I was doing some test animations for him. And the whole time, it was like, I was so excited to be able to work on this character. At the same time, I was like, how am I going to be able to recreate that?
Oh, man.
The magic from the old original Pinocchio.
Umbrella.
We had the umbrella, and I was like...
Jiminy Cricket was awesome. Like, he's the
Ward
first...
Kimball, he was the animator. I mean, that dude's a master,
It was awesome.
It would have been cool. So it was a drag, but, life goes on.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. And now you're working on bigger and better things. Like this silly little podcast. 2G33ks1mic.
Hanging out with you guys.
Going to cons.
Going to cons. you've been touring Comic-Cons like nationwide, right?
Starting to, yeah. We, so we've done the FanX in Salt Lake here, which is fantastic. I mean, it's my favorite one to be at Salt Lake. So our home, yeah. But
Take that, San Diego. Oh wait, we're not supposed to do that.
No, we're not supposed to. Well, no, the gag order was lifted.
Oh, gag order. Take that, San Diego. Oh.
I'd like to still go there one day. So,
so he can say how much better ours is. That's the only reason he wants to go.
But I've done so moving on. So we did Denver.
What we say is not
represent the views of
right. We we should just put that on every single episode. I need to make a tile.
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
The guests
the following
The following opinions do not
represent the views and opinions.
Like I could say, by the way, Thomas told us before the camera started rolling that Ray's parents are actually.
Yes.
Stop!
But the Comic-Con stuff, we did Denver, which was awesome, and then now we're taking the show more on the road. We did Oklahoma, and just a few weeks ago, which was great. We're going out to Springfield, Missouri in December. Nice. They have an awesome one that they're putting together called the Cosplay Carnival.
The Cosplay Carnival.
That one's gonna be awesome.
That sounds kind of dark. Dark.
Welcome to the carnival.
Cosplay. You don't know which way it's gonna turn when you get into cosplay.
Right? You gotta there's gonna be the anime row.
Yeah.
There's gonna be the horror row, and for some reason they're gonna be right next to each other. And then there's gonna be the brony row.
It could be anything. You never know.
Good luck.
Yeah. With that one's gonna be cool. Then we got Albuquerque in January, and then we're going back to possibly back out to Kansas City, and then Portland.
Where dream of the '90s is still alive.
That's right.
The dream of the '90s.
Did you ever see Portlandia?
No.
Oh my god!
Oh,
so good.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that.
It's so good.
I think I started watching the first episode, and then
you gotta get into it.
There's two conditions in which you watch Portlandia and enjoy it. Okay, one is it's 2:30 in the morning. That pizza's sitting in your stomach real weird, and you're like, what the hell is
this? You hear the intro of that show, and it's just like a drug.
It's just you gotta do it. And then the other one is to watch it with someone who's insane, who's watched it at 2 in the morning with that pizza's doing weird things to him. And then they're like, dude, this is hilarious. And for some reason, that gives it permission for you to laugh and enjoy the show as well. And
cool.
Either way, it's a hilarious show.
Yeah, I love it. So we're doing that. So and that's kind of what we've been doing now. Just kind of touring, doing Comic-Cons. I've been doing painting parties. I have a thing at Waffle Love where we set up the easils and lead people.
We want to do that so bad.
Sure.
That would be cool.
And then we got the show here. We're doing this in November, later this month.
Right.
We got the Crystal Festival.
The Crystal.
We'll be I'll be doing some paintings, crystals, and taking commissions, and I've done a few already.
Well, yeah, I've seen them online.
Stuff? Yeah.
If you guys want, you need to go check out his Facebook page.
Art of Thomas
Estrada. And you need to check out some of his paintings because they're amazing. And it's not, here's the other cool thing too, is it's not strictly Disney stuff. You have a lot of other art that I really love. At Comic-Con
Holiday.
We got little
Doc
Holiday.
Oh
my god, so awesome.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
That was the cool, I was there was only, I'm not usually a big when I'm walking through Artist Row, I'm oh, that's cool. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. There was a couple of things that I had to buy.
Catch your eye.
And one of them was the Doc Holiday, which
awesome.
Fan-freaking-tastic. Cool. Love it. And then the other one was there was a guy who was right across from you. And he had a picture of Chirrut Imwe, who's one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars franchise.
You get some of those really obscure, random characters.
Yeah.
And there are certain artists that just like those things, and you throw it out there. You never know. You get people walking by where you're like, "Oh my God, I've never seen anybody with Sword of Stone stuff," or something like that.
And it's so cool, especially just in the Star Wars realm. Is you get these characters that are more obscure, that have such a rich backstory.
See, I was looking for some Cthulhu mythos.
There was lots of Cthulhu.
I didn't see anything that
we got a little
really
sculpture of a Cthulhu Buddhist.
I have no idea who that is.
Cthulhu?
He was a H.P. Lovecraft, one of the elder gods.
Yes,
nice.
H.P. Lovecraftian style monster.
Sweet.
He's a giant that lives under the sea.
Wow.
Cthulhu is a fucking monster.
Tentacles right here on his mouth, and he's an actual alien.
Right. Oh, okay.
And so he formed himself after a certain race of aliens that he came across.
Nice. The only giant under the sea I remember was the Kraken.
Release the Kraken!
Release the Kraken!
In all of your animation experience in history, adventures, what would be the one project or one character or one whatever you're working on that stands out in your mind as probably the most frustrating or difficult one to get in there and just
going all the way back to the beginning to me was The Prince of Egypt. It was not only my first film, but it was a film that, even talking to the veterans that have been around for a long time, they even said this movie, just the quality and the detail that they're pouring into this film is far beyond a lot of stuff that they had worked on. And so it was my first thing right out of the gate, was to go in that film. And so
Sink or swim! Fire, baby!
Yeah, so it was a lot of that. And so it was, just going over drawings over and over again to make them just perfect.
How painstaking is that?
I'll tell you. I mean, it's a slow, tedious process. You're flipping the animation, you're flipping paper back and forth, and you're literally making the image move across the screen, frame by frame. So kind of how it works, I'll give you the quick rundown, is, feature animation runs at 24 frames per second. So every drawing is essentially a frame of film. Sometimes they'll use a drawing for 2 frames of film, but that's kind of the average. And so, as an assistant animator, I was doing the in-betweens. I would get drawing maybe number 1 and drawing number 10 from my boss, and I would do all the ones that would go in between. And so, I was never
make them go from here to here.
Exactly.
So you got picture 1, which is frame 1.
Frame 1.
Picture 10, which is frame 10.
So you would put
10 seconds.
So you would put those 2 on top of each other, and you would see the difference between how much it was moving.
And you've got a transition.
And then you would flip back and forth. So then you would do a blank sheet on top of those 2, and you would draw the halfway. You would look through the light. The light would shine through the paper.
Was it stencil paper?
It was a thin, thinner paper, and it had pegs on it, so everything would stay registered. All the registration would stay the same. So with the light shining through, you could see the difference between the motion. And sometimes it was a quarter of an inch, and there may be 10 drawings in between there, depending on how slow or fast they wanted it to move.
That's so awesome.
I was about an average speed assistant animator, and so I would average about 30 drawings a week. So in an entire week of drawing, I would get just over a second worth of film. That's how tedious and slow it was.
Now, don't you feel bad for illegally downloading those movies?
Shame on you.
Shame.
Thomas worked a week a second for that.
So you would see the film coming on. We would go to the premieres, which was really cool, and I'd be with my wife, and you'd be like, "Okay, my scene's coming up." So I was like, "Here it comes!" And
there it goes. Yeah,
done and done.
That was my scene.
Done and done.
I did when I was in junior high. I did extra work on a little TV show you might recognize as Touched by an Angel.
Oh, nice.
And I was wearing a purple flannel shirt.
That was you?
That was me.
Purple.
That was me. It was like 2 second purple.
Yeah.
That was me.
Nice.
Now you didn't know you were sitting next to a celebrity.
That's right.
I was in. Was it Touched by an Angel 2? I think, or Dawson's Creek.
Dawson's Creek.
But I was at a basketball game up in Park City.
Look at that.
Probably saw me.
Probably
in the crowd.
I was the really obnoxious drunk guy. Woo! Go team!
That's awesome. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. It was very slow and tedious, and that was hand-drawn animation, which it's no big surprise why they don't do hand-drawn animation.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that seems like a very
that's got to be a lot
cost-effective.
Yeah.
Well, it's a dying art for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in major Hollywood studios, you just don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some hand-drawn stuff that comes out of Europe, like they do beautiful stuff.
Right.
You'll get those occasionally, and then you still get really beautiful like stop motion stuff. Like Leica does, these films still. But as far as traditional, classical hand-drawn animation, it just doesn't really exist.
Well,
too
and
much anymore.
there's like, and the funny thing is, I knew a guy in college who, he was going to be an animator, and that was his dream. That's what he wanted to do.
Sure.
He wanted to be an animator. So it got to be really annoying watching movies with him, to be honest. Because he'd be like, so watch, if you look, they're using this technique. And what you're seeing, and I'm not kidding, the guy ruined anime for me. He ruined anime for me. Because he's like, if you look, first off, the background is like about that much, and they just run it over and over again. I'm like, son of a bitch! And then he's like, and then if you look,
they're not really redrawing that character.
It's two
one
frames.
drawing.
It's like, so the character's like, heh, her, heh,
Yeah.
her, and it's like, and then they put like sound to it, and you think everything's moving, but they're playing a trick
Everything's
on
an
your
illusion.
mind.
Yes.
Because they're just doing a couple frames, but they do that so that they can pump out all those cartoons.
Especially with anime stuff. Or they would take one still drawing and reuse that and just animate the mouth.
Yeah.
So the rest of the drawing is frozen.
It is a
because
single
economical.
solitary picture, and the mouth is literally doing this.
The mouth is the only thing that's animating. Yes.
And you'll watch, next time you watch an anime, you're gonna go, son of a bitch!
That's
just
why-
like I did.
That's why Transformers was such a hit. They didn't have mouths that moved.
Yeah. Well, there's no lip sync. You don't have to
hit.
Animating lip sync that's a really slow, tedious process.
Well, and that that was the thing that always cracked me up, is they'd say things like, "Oh yeah, the voice actor came into the studio and recorded all the lines, and then and their actions and what they were doing and their facial expressions are all used for the animators." And I was like, okay. Whoever did the genie for Aladdin, they had their work cut out for them.
Yes.
Because can you imagine Robin Williams? Hey, I'm the genie.
Okay, they actually use
and
a
they'd
lot of
have to
that,
be like,
yeah.
okay, hold on, stop, pause.
Well, they weren't animating him frame by frame, but they were watching him for reference to pick up gestures and body language. And
I mean, I'm sure not only were they recording his voice, but they were actually filming his face.
Yeah.
Because the animators would use that quite often for reference, and you'll see that a lot.
Did you have any like real life actors that you referenced in any of your work?
We would do a lot of that, especially for the game stuff. I mean, the game stuff especially was.
Well, I know you had mentioned that you would like have to record yourself.
Kylo Ren. Fortunately, also with the game, we were working on characters that may have been in films already. With Toy Story and that kind of thing. And so, but yeah, reference is very important just to make sure you're getting the right motion and that it's in character. Animation styles vary so much. If you're animating a run, you look at a run like on Toy Story with Woody, he's a ragdoll, so he's very loose, whereas Buzz Lightyear is an action figure, so his run is going to be very precise.
Very militaristic.
Right, and so you have to animate it to that character to make sure he's on model, as they say, that he's correct to that character. And so using reference from film or that type of thing, or from the actor, and or filming yourself. Very oftentimes at the studio, you'll see an animator running down the hall and like falling down or doing something.
Guys, film this one.
Exactly, because there's a lot of that stuff. I mean, even little things. I've had characters that have to high five.
Right.
In front of a camera. Well, what does that look like when two guys high fives? So I'll bring in a friend of mine. Hey, let's film us just doing a cheesy, just super high five. Yeah. And then so that you start to see like, oh, I see. Like your hand's gonna come up. You're gonna turn your shoulder first and then crank the arm out. So you want to watch all those things, and that's part of the animation is observing all the motion and making sure everything is correct.
That's so good.
And there's a lot of those things, and it's funny when you try to make it up sometimes. Like I had to animate in Infinity again. There was a scene with Ahsoka, and she lands. And
one of my favorite characters.
She's got the double lightsabers, and she's supposed to tear through all these androids. And so I wanted to do this cool martial arts, like spinning house, like up in the air kick. So I kind of like envisioned in my head what that might look like. And I animated this thing, and she's spinning around, and I thought it looked kind of cool.
Kick, spin,
yeah, exactly. And a friend of mine who was like a Taekwondo black belt, he came and looked at it, and he's like, dude, your kick's all wrong. Like, that would never work.
Get a camera.
Yeah.
That doesn't land correctly.
Well, he told me, he's like, look up this, I don't remember what the kick was called. Look this up like on YouTube. And sure enough, I found this slow motion kick that this Taekwondo guy was doing.
That's the kick!
And he's like, see the way he's like, you crank the hips around and then the leg, it torques. And I'm like,
That's
oh. And so you watch that stuff and suddenly my animation just looks so much cooler because it actually worked.
It mimics.
It worked. And it
That's
had
so
actual
good.
physics and it had the mechanics were correct on how you actually do that
That's
kick.
so
And
awesome.
so it's a lot of those things. It's researching, trying to find how does this actually do it, you know? If you just envision even an animation of a character like getting up off the ground, you know, to think about that, you know, you imagine you think you know what it is, but when you actually film yourself getting up off the ground, like, oh, I'm bringing my foot down and planting that underneath, and then my body weight shifts over this foot,
That's
and it's
so
like,
cool.
so you have to get all that stuff down.
Stuff
to
you
make
just
it,
don't even think about. Like,
well, then that's
you do it all the time.
and that's kind of the problem is if you do it so well, all the mechanics are working and the weight is shifting, nobody really notices it in a film because it's so natural.
Yeah.
It's the bad animation that really stands out.
Then he got up and
Yeah.
Well, it's like Knights of the Old Republic, the #1,
Right.
where everything is just so clanky and
It is.
janky. It's like,
And that's the stuff you notice is
I
when
was
it's really
talking
bad,
to you.
right? But when something is really natural and it moves correctly and there's weight and the motion is supposed to be the way it is,
smooth.
it's oftentimes you don't even see it because it's so natural.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? Thank you so much
Hey,
for
my
joining
pleasure.
us. This has been an absolute
fun.
blast.
Oh yeah, it's been awesome.
When people want to look up your art, where can they go?
If they just type in Art of Thomas Estrada, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm pretty much everywhere under that.
There you go.
So just type that in and you'll find a link to
On all them
the,
social medias.
On all them
medias,
social
on the
medias.
internets. Yeah.
Until next time, guys, make sure you look up Thomas. Make sure you try the new Mountain Dews.
New flavors.
They're
of
amazing.
beers.
We
What is
got
this
more
one?
coming to you.
Arctic Burst.
This is
Burst.
Tropical Smash.
Nice, delicious.
Whee!
Come out to the Crystal Festival.
And come out to
yeah.
right here.
To the Hall.
The Geeks will be broadcasting live.
We'll be here. We're doing some. I'm going to be doing some painting on site and taking commissions and doing some fun stuff.
It's gonna be awesome.
I think Son of Geek will make an appearance.
He should.
Something
I think he should. Son of Geek.
Son
All
of
right.
Geek.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Have a fantastic
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Kaboo.
Cool.
Oh.